doesn't care. So at least for the sake of this morning, we're going to go through this. This may or may not stay up on the YouTube stream. I'm going to see if I'm allowed to leave it up there. If I can't, I'll have to take it down. So this might be a live call only, just so you all know. So let's go ahead and pull it up. And I think YouTube is live. Did y'all get the notification that's live?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. There. So at least for the sake. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. So thank you all for being on. Why is this not? It's not pulling up the actual policy. Give me 1 second, guys. There we go. All right, I'm gonna take off the waiting room as well. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. Give me a thumbs up when you can see it. Good. Okay. Awesome. So, guys, this is a index universal life insurance policy, $1 million death benefit, and then coverage option A. So the death benefit is level. So that's basically what that means. This means $1 million, preferred elite, so super healthy, 40 years old. And I was having trouble finding the premium, like the actual monthly premium on this, because there's a couple different numbers throughout the policy. But he told me he got quoted $750 a month for this life insurance policy. Okay. So $750 a month is what he's paying. And I asked him, I said, what's the reason that you bought the life insurance? Right. I said, why did you purchase life insurance? For like an investment, or did you get it to like protect your family, like a death benefit? He said, I got it for retirement. I have a death benefit policy already. Okay, great. So now that I know his purpose of why he bought this, right, I don't need to try to sell him on the value of cheaper life insurance. But if we're looking through this, indexed account A, 8.5% current growth cap. So that's the cap. Okay. 3% guaranteed minimum growth cap. So that means it's going to be, he can get anywhere between 3 and 8.5%. Okay. That's the basics of what each of these sections are saying. Okay. Now, if you look at this, so the fixed account, they're putting no money into the premium. Indexed account A, he's putting 15%. Indexed account B, he's putting 20%. Index C, 30 and 35. So you don't really need to know all of that information. Like you don't need to know it, but ultimately it's a total of 3% of 35% and 1% of 30% is what his fees are just for that portion of the policy. Okay. Now, if we go to illustration assumptions, so let's see. I read something. It was somewhere around here that I read last night that I was not a big fan of that. The maximum, okay. So the maximum illustrated segmented growth rate for index accounts A, B, C, and E is 5.51%. That's the maximum growth. 5.51%. Is that above or below the S&P 500? Just the S&P 500, not even mutual funds. Right? It's below, way below, right? So we need to know what we're talking about when we're talking to somebody like this. So all these are like disclaimers and stuff. So one of the things that even he knew yesterday, Josh, when I was texting him, he told me, he said, if the market has a down year, a negative year at all, so if the S&P 500 doesn't grow over the course of 1 year, all of the hypotheticals that they have are rendered invalid. They don't matter anymore, right? And he knew that. I didn't even have to tell him that. He knew it. So if you look at the change in the S&P 500 from 2023 to 2022, the last 20 years, last year, it was down 19%. In 2018, it was down 6%, 6.2. In 2015, it was down almost 1%. In 2008, it was down 38%. So what does that mean? 1, 2, 3, 4 times in the last 20 years, his policy would have been like rendered, his hypotheticals would have been rendered invalid because of the way that this policy is written. Does that make sense, guys? Are you at least sort of following along with what I'm showing you right now? So this one, like with the negative account values, it immediately drops and makes it so all of these down here are not valued or are not valued anymore. So if we come back down here, what's up?
Yeah,
I thought somebody was trying to say something. No worries. If you guys can make sure you're muted, that would be amazing. My son grabbed the peanut butter and he's looking for a spoon right now. Josh, I looked over at him and he's got the peanut butter in one hand, like a big jar of peanut butter, and he's in the spoon drawer like this, looking for a spoon. But all right, so let's go to this. So if we look at the guaranteed, okay, so guaranteed, everybody type guaranteed in the chat. So his accumulated value after 10 years is 102,000. Okay, he's got $1 million in death benefit. And so at this point in time, he's got $102,000 in his account. Okay, theoretically. Now he's gonna be able to pull money out or whatever, sure. And look at the very bottom of what this says. A value of 0 in death benefit column indicates that coverage would lapse under the given schedule of premiums. Okay, so at the age of 61, so 21 years into his policy, he's paying $0 in coverage, so he doesn't have to pay anymore. But what else happens here to the account value? Does anybody see what's happening to the account value there? The value inside of the account is going down. Okay, so he's not paying anymore. And what's also happening is the account value is dropping. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I don't want an account that's going to lose value, especially because realistically, most people aren't going to retire when they're 60. They're going to be working a little bit longer. It should continue growing and they should keep putting money into this thing. Okay, now a lot of like Primerica people will tell you to make sure you don't ever just go off the guaranteed, because the guaranteed shows you this policy exploding on itself. So let's just pretend that he's going to get the illustrated rate, the 5.51%. So he's paying $750 a month. Okay, and at the age of 60, he's going to have $502,000. Okay, the age of 60, it's 502. And at the age of 70, it's 838,000. Okay, now watch. Let me pull up my Primerica app really quick. Give me 1 second. So there's a lot more in the policy that we could really go through, but I don't need to show you guys how to like, I don't want to get you guys looking at the wrong stuff. You know what I mean? I don't want you to get too caught up in the weeds. Like that's really all that you need to look at to be able to beat this policy. But let's just come here and go to quick quote really quick. And we'll pull up a quote and we'll look. So if I'm talking to this client, guys, I'm going to be going straight to quick quotes. Remember, he's 40. He got the preferred elite health, which means for us, that's probably one of the most healthy categories. Now, I'm going to quote him still at worst case scenario. Why? Because I want to be able to beat their best with our worst. Does that make sense? Because that makes it so obvious on what he should do, right? So if he's a non-tobacco user, he's 40 years old. We're going to do precision term because he wants $1 million. We're going to go worst case scenario, class 6 on a 35-year term. That's going to last. This policy then is guys are going to last him an additional. Oh my gosh, what's happening? It's going to last him an additional 15 years beyond where it is in his hypotheticals that he has. So $1 million of coverage on him with waiver of premium and covering his daughter, because I know he's got a daughter as well. And I don't know what's going on with his other policy. The total for that is $297 a month. Is that more or less than 750? It's a lot less, right? Okay, so now we're going to take 750 right? And we're gonna subtract 297 from that. Okay, so what's that number? Let me pull it up real quick. So if we go 750 minus 297, that's $453 a month that he's gonna now be able to invest. So now we're gonna go to the compounding interest calculator. And we're gonna pretend he has absolutely no money to invest at all. And he's doing 453 times 12. That's $5,436 a month. And we give it the same 35 years to grow. And let's just give it 9%. That's below the S&P 500 average. That's $1.2 million. Right? But we were looking earlier, we were looking at 20%, right? So after, or sorry, 20 years, not 20%, my bad. So at the 20-year mark, he's going to have 303,000. Okay. Now that is less money than what is in the IUL, but what you're not, like what we don't remember sometimes when we look at this is all the fees and the surrender charges and stuff like that associated with it. And so we have to remember that when we're looking at stuff like this, because a lot of times they'll sell this to the gap, right? Hang on, guys, 1 second. So we're selling to that gap. I don't know if you guys can still hear Axel. I'm sorry if you can't. But if he's getting a little bit better of a rate of return, if he gets like 11%, it's still going to be a little bit lower, but it's obviously better, right? Now we're wanting to get the best return that we can for the client. If we go to the 30-year mark, the 30-year mark is 807,000, okay? Which at the 30-year mark on this policy, it's 838,000. Okay, but again, there's surrender charges and fees and all of those things. And if they ever take the money out, they have to pay it back. Okay, or he loses the death benefit. Does that make sense, guys? If he takes the money out, they have to pay it back or they lose death benefit. But any mutual fund that's like worth its weight is going to get you above a 10 or 11% rate of return. We're going to go off of a 12% rate of return in 30 years. The exact same investment difference, is going to be 1.4 million after 30 years. Okay, which is obviously more than 838,000. Okay. And one of the biggest selling points that somebody would tell you is, well, it's tax-free money. Your life insurance is only tax-free on inheritance. It's not tax-free when you take money out and then your policy lapses. Right. So if you, like Caprice, let's say you started this policy for your family and at 60 years old, you decide to pull all your money out of it and the policy lapses. Well, all the gains and everything like that are now taxed. And you have to pay back taxes on all of the gains that you've taken out of that policy. So you need to understand how these things actually work when you're talking to people, and you need to know what you're talking about when you're doing it, and if you don't know, bring somebody with you that does. Now, let's say he does get the best health rating like he did with his other policy. It's now $166 a month. So we're going to go 750 minus 166. That's 584 a month. So if we do 584 times 12, it's 7,800. And in that 20-year time frame with him as the healthiest person he could possibly be, and getting a 10% interest rate, it's 441,000. So he's about at the same place with that, but he doesn't have to loan the money to himself ever. And if you look at a 30-year time frame, it's 1.2 million, about 400,000 more than what it was. So Caprice, do you have a question?
Well, the example you just gave, someone that's 60 years old, they pull their money out, and then you said they're taxed on the gains. But so in my mind, I'm thinking, and maybe it's the type of account that we're using this example on. You could take your money out at 59.5, your gains and what you've put in it, right?
So if you're putting your money into a Roth IRA, so
tax, right?
Yeah, he makes too much for a Roth IRA, so he can't do a Roth IRA. So there's other things that we can do with his money. But here's the reality, guys: you're only taxed if you make money. So you're not just going to make like put your money into an investment, have to pay taxes just because it's in an investment. You're only taxed on gains. Okay, so like they don't tax you on the money sitting in your savings account, not yet at least, right? They don't tax you on the money in your savings account, but they do tax you on your earned income.
So any gains you're always going to be taxed on, no matter what age you take them
You
out.
can't avoid it. Yeah, that's the thing that's crazy. People are like, oh, I don't want to pay taxes, so I'm going to put my money into a life insurance policy. That is not smart. Because that's like you're just under like you just said, Josh, they're outperforming the market, and in the market, sorry, the market outperforms the policy at its best possible scenario. And it's capped in its gains. And if it ever has, and that's the biggest thing to remember, Romeo, is if that account ever hits zero for 1 month, or sorry, for 1 year, if that account, so Caprice, if that thing, it's like, let's say this year the market's up, next year the market's up, next year the market's up, but 4 years from now the market's at negative 0.1%. Everything in that hypothetical is completely invalid, because now they have to pull all of the fees out of, they're pulling all, there's not enough money coming in to cover all the fees and expenses, so they pull money out of the principal, and everything else in the hypothetical just goes straight out the window, because there's been a single year down in the market. So you need to understand that that's how these things are built. They're built to sound awesome, and the reality is, like, could you get a little bit of cash back later? Sure, yeah, you can. Like, you're gonna, like, if you keep your money in this, you will get money back. I'm not telling you that you're never going to get money out of this thing, and that it's not a death benefit. If you die, it's not going to pay out. I'm just saying there's a better way to do it. Right? If we're trying to make sure that we have something that our money is going to grow in, and also something that provides a little bit of a death benefit, well, then you just get life insurance and then invest the difference. Like, that's it. But if you're just like he told me, he's like, I already have a policy for a death benefit. I'm like, cool. Well, then you don't need life insurance. Like, you need an investment advisor to help you with investments and help you with growing your money there. Does that make sense, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What questions do you guys have? Cool. This guy was a friend of Taylor and I when we lived in Philadelphia. He was our chiropractor. And I've messaged him 5 or 6 times, and Brian, he has never responded to like posting anything or getting on a call to see what we do or anything like that. He's just said, hey, hope everything's going well, stuff like that. And never been like, yeah, I'm not interested or anything, just like checked in every once in a while. But he texted me last week. He's like, hey, I've been watching everything you've been doing. He's like, I have a life insurance client that tried to sell me an IUL, and I feel like he's just in it for himself and for the money, and he's not actually trying to educate people. He said, I see you're trying to help people understand life insurance and investments. Could you help me real quick? That's how that started. It was because I put out there a lot what I do. And like I was talking about yesterday, and I talk about this on orientations all the time. People are never going to just come to you without you telling them what you do and showing them how you provide value. And that's why I do a lot of reels. That's why I throw posts up there all the time. And I catch flack for it sometimes from other insurance agents, sure. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily care, because they're doing what's wrong for people, right? If you're doing what's right for somebody, you don't have to defend the integrity of the thing that you're selling. Right? Nobody's ever going to question the fact that buying term and investing the difference pays the agent less than what an IUL or whole life policy does.
I literally just had that conversation with someone yesterday.
So when someone's gonna like come at me like, oh, you're just trying to make money, I'm like, well, actually, you're the one trying to make money. Like, I'm gonna make way less off of this than you are, and it's gonna put the client in a better position. So who's this really better for, you or them? But you have to A, know your stuff, and B, you have to be comfortable saying stuff like that, where it's, let me back up. It's uncomfortable saying stuff like that, but you have to be willing to go there, especially for your client. Like I told this guy last night, I was messaging him like 11 o'clock. I said, hey, get that agent to hop on a Zoom call with us. I don't care. Like, if you look back at like A.L. Williams and you read the books that he wrote, or you listen to what he talks about, like Dick Walker talks about all the time, like agent confrontation appointments, like they'll get both agents together and the clients will just let them battle it out.
I love that.
And if you got, I mean, honestly, Romeo, if you got into a street fight with life insurance, are you gonna win? Do you know your stuff? Right, and that's why we're doing these calls, and that's why I go over at least the policy every week with you guys, so you can know what to look for. Every policy is going to be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, they're all basically the same, and they all have the same things in the same places. You just got to know what it might be disguised as and what it might be called, right? So that's all. I hope that was helpful for you guys. I want you all to go into the Telegram and put how many, yeah, you should, absolutely, Ellie, and you should send that to your health insurance agent person. But I want you guys to go onto the team Telegram and put what your appointment setting record is and when are you going to break it. And those of you that are full-time and on the docs, text me. I want you to text me what your closing